on, guys? I'm Hannah.
And I'm Alec from Script Studios, and welcome back to another Newlywed Talks. For those of you who are tuning in today, today's topic is about friends. Friendships in a relationship, if that makes sense. Friendships in a relationship, or relationships in a friendship, because a friendship does relationships. Yep.
There we go. That's it. All done. Bye.
No,
No, yeah, like you said, we're talking about friendships. So, like friendships that you as a couple, you have friends that you like to hang out with, or you individually have friends. We're going to kind of talk about that, talk about having friends of the opposite sex.
There
which
are a
can
few,
be a thing.
yeah, Mike, there's also
like,
a few different viewpoints here, because obviously friends of the opposite sex, there is if you're more extroverted kind of people, if you're more introverted kind of people, if you like to travel a lot, if you like to stay at home a lot, I don't know, etc. Blah, blah, blah.
Do you guys
We're
like...
going to work on trying to cover most of these topics
Yeah.
in ways that we think would make sense. But
So,
you were asking a question.
I was just kind of going to add to your list really there, but I guess we can start off with what I was going to say. Do you guys prefer to have your own personal friends that maybe your spouse kind of knows, but you're not all in a friendship together? Or do you like having friends as a couple? So, like, both of you could go over there and be super comfortable with that friend or that friend couple or whatever, things like that. So, I guess since we're the only ones that can answer that question, do you want to answer?
Well, you guys can still answer. Just
you can answer just in the comments, but I'll respond to his answer.
Okay, so I think it is good to have a level side of both, where you have some of those friends that you can like leave and just hang out one-on-one with and be like a ton of fun. Like for me, it's my buddy Sam. He is a stud of a guy. He is my favorite person in the world, and he is a dude that I can go hang out with at any point, anywhere, and just have a blast, right? But the bright side with Sam is that he also gets along pretty well with Hannah. So therefore, if we are in a group setting, then it's still
not
good.
Awkward,
it's still good. It's not awkward.
Still,
it's fun,
it's
right?
Good.
But I still think it's good to have a solid balance, because I don't think it should be like, oh, both of us have to be there to hang out and have a lot of fun together, you know? But I also feel like there should be... Okay, reel that back a second so I can restart that saying. I think it's good for you to have your own personal friends that you get along with more than your spouse does. Because everybody needs someone to fall back to. Everybody needs someone to go take a break and say hello to, or whatever. And but also, on the other hand, it is also really good for both of you guys to have a friendship with somebody else, whether it's another couple or another person, that you both can go and have just a ton of fun with if you need to, you know? And then obviously they both can bleed into each other, which is completely fine. But I feel like there needs to be that at least level split off in that sense. For that specific question, that's what I think. What do you think?
I actually agree with you. I like how you said that because I wasn't thinking about that.
She actually
at all.
agrees with me. Ooh.
Like, that never happens.
Ever.
What? But I think it's very smart because as a married couple, you're with each other a lot, hopefully. Like, I mean,
Too much sometimes.
every couple's different. And so I think it's good that you would have a place to be like, oh, yeah, it's just me. Even though, like, eventually you'll go back to your spouse and be like, yay, I'm with you again. But then you can also still have these things together so you're not, like, so separated. Does that make sense? Because I feel like too much of either is too much.
Yeah,
Like,
I think I can fully agree with that. If it's too much of one side or the other. And especially in like the terms of the marriage, it can be not very good for some people if they spend all their time together, but also it can be really good for other people to spend all their time together. So then you don't want to spend all your time with your friend either and completely
ignore your spouse
and such another. So
I think
bring it half and half. It's a solid balance. It's a good balance. Obviously, everybody's balance is going to be different because sometimes you need more friendship time than you need spouse time. But at the same time, your spouse should be your friend.
Yes. You guys, you should be friends. Hopefully you can be friends, and like
instead of mortal enemies.
You can enjoy each other's company together.
They got married for the glory of the Roman Empire or something,
Yeah. That's exactly, yes. Well, I guess
Scottish
if you
will not
got
be
married
part of
for
this.
that reason, either you wouldn't care about each other or you'd be so, like, infatuated with each other. Anyway, off the Roman Empire subject. Don't distract my brain.
So the next question is, this is for, again, everybody. She's going to answer, and then I'm going to answer. But you guys answer down in the comments, please.
In the comments.
So for the next question, do you think it is okay for your spouse to have a really good friend of the opposite gender, and how often are they allowed to see / talk to / be alone with said person?
So, I'm a little all over the place with this question. To be completely honest, I get a little jealous and insecure sometimes when it comes to like you having friends of the opposite sex, of it just having other friends that are girls, because like I mean, look at him, guys. Look how freaking attractive this dude is. Like, look at that. Look at that. Who can resist that? But
I can, that's for sure.
But I mean, like, so I guess sometimes I get insecure. I'm like, oh, these girls are going to hit on you. And, like, they're going to be like, oh, come on, come over. And be like, meh, meh, meh. And so sometimes I get caught up in this thing of, like, I hate all of them. You shouldn't have any friends that are girls. Delete them, block them. And then, but that's, like, that's way too extreme, in my opinion. When I'm logically thinking, I think that is way too extreme. Unless, like, for you and your partner, that's just how it works. You know, like, if that is what you have to do, you can't have close friends of the opposite sex.
Like,
then
maybe it's been an issue in the past, so if you guys are trying to keep it working and you just absolutely can't have any kind of alone time or anything with the opposite sex, or else it's just not a good idea.
Yeah, then, I mean, like, you guys gotta do what works for you and also what keeps your relationship good and healthy, you know? So ultimately, I think it is okay to have friends of the opposite sex. Now, going out and hanging out with them alone all the time, I don't think that's okay.
No.
I personally, I don't agree with that. I would feel kind of gypped and kind of miffed, because I'd be like, well, I'm here. Like, what am I? I'm just the person who's at home when you get here, kind of a thing. Like, that's how I would feel, because I want to be that friend that you like hanging out with alone, you know? Who's the girl, right? And I don't want to feel like any other girl is that girl.
I mean, there's also that thing of, like, the more time you spend with someone, the more you feel attracted to them. In so much way forward. The better not attracted, because obviously it might be like a guy friend and a guy friend, and if you guys are both extremely straight, you won't be attracted to each other. But there's a better connection, I guess is a better way to put it. There is a stronger connection the more time you spend with one-on-one with a person.
And hopefully that connection that you're trying to create to make the strongest is the one with your spouse, because that connection should be unbreakable. That should be like super solid, or you should be trying to make it solid, right? So it's good to have solid friendships, because you do need friends. I really do think that you need friends outside of marriage. But when it comes to the opposite gender, I'm a little picky.
That's fair.
What about you, though?
So for me, I think it is okay to have friends of the opposite gender. I do feel like there has to be boundaries, obviously. You know, there's got to be some pretty big boundaries there. I feel like if you are pushing off your spouse for this opposite gendered friend, then it's really, really not a good idea. Because your spouse should obviously always be your number one. Mm-hmm. Like kind of how Hannah was saying, the other person might feel a lot jealous. Now, if they're just like, you know what, by all means, you go hang out with your friends, whatever, they probably either given up on you, or like you're not really that important to them, or by somehow they don't get jealous like at all, and they're just completely chill with everything. It's
possible.
It is possible. It's rare, but it is
possible.
possible.
People are like that sometimes.
So, you obviously have to gauge that. Mm-hmm. Be careful, because sometimes they can be like, yeah, go, leave, whatever, and then they get really upset. Mm-hmm. In the long run. Sometimes I do that, I gotta say, because I'm like, you know what, whatever, you do you, and then I'll do me. Just let it be. Just
honestly,
I'm fine.
I don't think that works in a marriage. I don't think that fine, you do you kind of thing like that doesn't work. You guys are in this together. Mm-hmm. So it's like, okay, you have to figure it out sometimes, because it's like there are points where either of us will be like, you know what? I'm done. I'm backing off. Whatever. You just do whatever you're going to do. But I think it's okay to voice to your spouse, which, I mean, disclaimer, we're not perfect here. We're not perfect at doing this. But I think
We still struggle with it.
Yeah, we're still learning. We're still growing, guys.
It's fine.
But I think it's a good idea to voice to your spouse to say, you know what, I'm not comfortable with that. But obviously you are a free agent. If you want to approach it like that, it's like you have the ability to choose. Like you can make that choice if you want. I'm not comfortable with it. I would prefer if you did this. But like you could approach it like that and just voice how you're feeling. Still give them an option so they don't feel like you're trying to control them, right?
Right.
But just it's okay to let them know that you're not comfortable with something.
Yeah.
I want to ask though, what is your definition of alone?
Alone, I feel like, is more in a private space. Anything that can be considered just a regular room, or like if you're just going over to their house by themselves, I feel like that is alone.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I don't think there should ever be a time when a guy that is married or a girl that is married decides to go be alone in another room with the opposite sex friend. I don't think that should ever happen, because that's kind of crossing a line pretty hard there.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think like stuff out in public is okay. You can go to the parks, you can go to like diners or something. Like if they're friends that you're just like, hey, let's go out for your party or whatever, like your birthday or whatever. I feel like that's okay. Bring them over, have some dinner or whatever, talk, catch up, and be done with it.
Now, I think going along with that, like going on a hike and being in a secluded area or in a cave, that's also alone, right? Because like you're outside, you're out in the open, but nobody is there. Nobody's walking by.
That's true, but that's also down to the trust level
Mm-hmm.
of this friend and the spouse,
Mm-hmm.
because obviously some people really just like to go out and hike, or they like to go spelunking, or they do like to go see these places where it's really just, I need an adventure buddy. My wife or spouse doesn't do this kind of stuff, so will you come with me? That's what I think. It really just depends on kind of the level of it. If you can feel like there's some kind of chemical attraction, chemistry, then maybe not, because then you can get yourself into a level of trouble as well. But I do think that it is within reason. Personally, for me, I think it's okay for that kind of stuff, but I don't think that it should be taken super lightly either, because it can lead to somewhere else if there's any kind of spark or any kind of past spark that might arise again and stuff like that,
So like if you're going outside in a place that maybe not a lot of people, there's not a lot of traffic, but you're specifically doing an activity kind of a thing, that's more okay.
I think that's okay, because honestly, it's like I'm going to Zion's today, and I probably shouldn't hike this specific thing on my own, My spouse isn't coming. None of my buddies want to come. And you're the one that got back to me and said you were able to, and I still want to go. You want to join me?
All right, that's
fair. It's more for like an adventure, or kind of just something either new, something exciting, something like that, or like I have friends that I've had since I've been born. I've had girls that I've grown up with that I would consider like sisters and stuff like that. If I were to go somewhere and invite one of them, there would be nothing there, personally. There would be nothing there, but we'd go out and we'd still have fun. Like somebody I knew, like she's 2 weeks older than I am, but our families were really good friends. She is very much a sister, but like not a sister, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Sister, but not a sister.
Yeah.
I would be more than comfortable with even just like hanging out at her place watching a movie, because I know nothing's going to happen. I can promise wholeheartedly that nothing will happen and everything like that, because there is no attraction, there is no spark, there is nothing that would lead us to something that shouldn't be happening, So there's stuff like that where it's always up to the level and the comfort zone of everything else. Now, if it's someone that I just met, I wouldn't go be alone like anywhere with them. Maybe if we went to like a park to talk or something where there was a lot of kids running around and all this stuff, maybe. But like other than that, I don't think it's smart. You have to figure out where you stand with each other before anything like that happens.
Because some people don't care if you're married. don't care if you're in a relationship. Or some people just misinterpret things, and miscommunication can happen, and it can get messy.
So here's the thing. I am a subconscious flirt, like not consciously doing anything.
He naturally flirts without realizing he does it.
Because I like to be nice, and when I see something I like on someone, I point it out. I'm like, dang, your eyes are really sparkling today. Or like, hey, you have a really nice smile and all this stuff. And then that can be misconstrued. Well, obviously nowadays anything can feel like flirting. Anything could be how it is,
And
you know?
a
But
girl
it just
has easily been like, hey.
Exactly. So half the time I don't even know, because my filter on stuff that I say is kind of thin. I've gotten a lot better at it as the years have gone by, but it is pretty dang thin. And obviously with stuff like this, I feel like if it's something nice to say, as long as it doesn't sound super creepy, like, hey, you got a nice butt or something, you know? That'd be weird. That'd be really weird. But if it was something like, hey, you're wearing a really nice shirt today, it really compliments your such and such, you know? Mm-hmm. Like your ears. I don't know. Compliments your ears. Good job.
Or like, that color looks really nice on you, or your smile is beautiful. Like,
and
I feel
then
like that's
obviously
fine.
there
Like,
are
if you're
some
trying to
where
build people up,
yeah.
that's good.
So for me, it's a little bit of a struggle, because I'm trying to find a solid balance where I like friends. I really enjoy having friends. In fact, I feel like I get along better with girls than I do guys most of the time. And I'll tell you, it is one of the hardest things as a married guy to get a friend that is a girl.
Because some girls are like, oh, you're married, I'm backing off.
So they're backing off
like,
completely. Or they're like, oh, I feel like this is flirting and everything and all this stuff. And then they get too attached, and then you're like, okay, calm down, back up. I'm not into that. I just want to be your friend. Like, stuff like that. It's really hard, but at the same time, it kind of makes sense. I'm sure the older that I get, it'll get better, but because I'm in that range of like the dating range still and all this stuff, maybe as soon as like they have their own husbands and everything, and they have their own families and all that stuff, and it's like, okay, you know, let's be friends. Let's come over. Let's have a dinner party. Let's do all this kind of stuff, you know? And then I feel like it's a little bit more acceptable at that point. But as of right now, I'm probably going to go for a while without really getting any good lady friends, because, man, they look at you and they're instantly just like, whoop.
Oh, man. Well, I kind of think that it's because they're all attracted to you, and then they're like, he's married, but I really like him, so I gotta back off.
I just think it's awkward.
It can get very awkward. So I have another question about friends.
Next. Remember, comment down below. I want all of these. You can be like question 1, parentheses, question 2, parentheses, question 3.
Do it. But what do you think about being friends with a past relationship after you're married?
I feel like it will, for me, it still ranges, obviously. Sparks do arise a lot with past relationships. I feel like it can work with talking. Like, I don't know if it's of original relationships, like boyfriend-girlfriend relationships.
Yeah. So like romantic relationships.
Okay, romantic relationships. I feel like, especially after they're married, if there is any sense of literally anything that could be construed as love, it's got to be cut off, because that is something that can be pretty dangerous. But now if they've already made up, they've made friends, nothing else is happening, and it's seemed like that it's nothing been happening for a long time, they're probably okay. To be honest, they're probably okay. That would go into the subject of not being alone with each other at that point, because they were in a relationship, a romantic one before, but they should not be alone together. They are allowed to be around if you still want them to be around, and like say hi and hang out every now and again, but it should be together. You know, that one shouldn't be alone.
I agree. I think it depends on like the level. Because I mean, if it was like a week and you were like, oh, we're in love, and then the next week you're like, both of you are like, we don't want to do this anymore, but you're friends, like, it's like, that wasn't really a relationship. And if you fell out that fast, then it's like, yeah, you're not gonna fall for each other again.
Now,
but certain relationships, it's like, it really just depends, honestly. I think every situation is different. So what were you gonna say?
Well, I was gonna say, now if it's like one that's gone on for like a month or more, especially the ones that range into years, I definitely think they shouldn't come back. Personally, I don't think they should. I feel like they should probably be blocked off, especially if you've gotten married to somebody else, because that's going to be a dangerous thing, Unless it's like, say this girl that I did know for since I was born, if her and I randomly got together in a relationship because we're like, hey, we just randomly like each other now, and we spent together for like a year, but then we're like, this is just weird. You're still like a sister to me. This was just, I don't know, this was a bad idea. Then we're both like, yeah, that's a bad idea. You can still be friends. It'll still be just fine. And
I guess it depends on the nature of the breakup.
Yeah.
Right? Because, I mean, we've both been in relationships where the breakup was bad.
Yep.
And we don't carry on those relationships because that's probably the best thing for those circumstances. And then there's other ones where it's like, that was pretty mutual. We both moved on.
Yep.
So, yeah, okay.
So that's how I feel about all of that stuff. And now we're going to go for question number 4, which is one that I've just barely thought of because we need one more question, I think. One more question, which would be extroverted versus introverted friends. As in, like, you guys are more extroverted versus introverted. And how would you handle them?
So, like, you mean, like, your friends are extroverted or introverted, or you being extroverted and introverted?
Try both sides and see what happens.
Both sides. So how would I handle, like, making friends in that sense? Sorry, I'm just trying to clarify so I make sure I answer this correctly.
For what I'm thinking of is, like, so if I was very extroverted and you were very extroverted and we went and made friends, we'd have a lot of friends that would hopefully be more out and about and doing stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And we would handle that by going, having parties, doing stuff like this. Mm-hmm. Now, if we're introverted, invite them over for movies, invite them over for dinner parties, just play games, kind of stuff like that. Now, if there's a half and half where you're extroverted and I'm introverted, how would you handle that?
Okay, okay, yeah. So I think, because personally, I am very extroverted. I am a very extroverted person. So, when it comes to, like, with introverts, I know that sometimes being in social situations is just more exhausting. And it's harder to be, like, up and peppy and trying to have the energy to interact with people. So I think you should talk to each other and make specific plans, Because I think if you just set aside a specific time, then you both get to hang out with people. The extroverted person gets to be out there, gets to flutter around and be with people, but then the introverted person also has a time and place where they can go have fun, can go interact with people, but then they also know that there is a cutoff so they can go home and so they can rest. So I think that's a good way to handle it, is just scheduling things. Just at least, like, and it can be kind of spontaneous if you're both spontaneous people, or if you're not, it doesn't have to be. But, like, you could say, okay, so this day our friends are having a game night, we should go over, but we're gonna cut it off at like 7, or we're gonna cut it off at 9, and we'll head there at this time, kind of a thing. Like, we need to be back home here, so we'll end it there, Or if there are times where you are in a social situation and one of you is like, I need to go home, like, I'm done, I can't do this anymore, then just have each other's backs and make it happen. Like, take care of each other.
Yeah, I'm like, for that one specifically, too, if someone's like, I need to leave, I need to go home, and there is that possibility of you staying and catching a ride home later, too, if you need it.
True, yeah, you could do that.
And then they could take the car keys and leave. So, yeah. We've had people do that a lot, too.
Oh, yeah.
So,
and I think
even we've done that sometimes.
Oh, yeah. Like, I think that's totally okay, and it's okay to realize, like, okay, well, let's say, like, I'm super introverted, but he's super extroverted, so I know that he needs more time with people. He wants more time with people, but I'm done. I'm going to let him have that time. That's really nice, actually, for you as spouses to do that, but it's also okay to be like, you know what? I'm going to make sure they get home and that we just have some cool down time together. Or, yeah, you can take the keys and go, or we'll drive separately so you can go whenever you want, but then I don't have to stay super late because some other people don't want to leave.
That revolves getting 2 cars.
Yeah, if you have that, but but yeah, so, like, I think it's okay to handle situations like that. Mm-hmm. But always remember just to put each other first. Because, like, yeah, your friends are fun and they're going to be there, but your spouse is the person you live with that you said that you're going to take care of each other, right? So just make sure that your spouse is comfortable and that they're okay. And I think...
And then as soon as you know that they're good, then you can care about your friends and do all that kind of stuff. But
I also think it's okay, or you should make sure you should talk to each other about, like, what the other person can handle when it comes to social situations like that, because then you can be more understanding of, like, okay, so I'm having these friends over, but you don't have to come down if you don't want to, kind of a thing. Like,
right.
you don't have to come interact the whole time. That's okay. I think that's a good thing to do for each other.
But anyways, if you guys have any other comments about stuff like this, go ahead and leave them down below. Or, like, different, like, angles from this that are kind of weird. Because, I don't know. Friendship handle things can work all the time.
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah,
do we have the time?
Let's do it.
Do you think that so your spouse should know or meet all of your friends?
Depends, honestly.
Yeah.
Because I feel like some of them are super far away. And some of them are... is this, like, in person or just online?
So,
or, like, be introduced to them or, like, just even talk about them?
However it should work. Because, like, let's say you have a pen pal that lives across the world, and then you start chatting on Zoom or whatever. Like, do you think your spouse should have a time where they actually meet or get introduced to this person? Or do you think, like, should your spouse know about all of your friends? Or do you think it matters if some of the friends are kind of like, oh, sometimes I talk to you, like, through Instagram, but then we don't talk that much?
So, personally, I think every friend should be known, but not every friend needs to be well known, if that makes sense. Including the friends need to know that, like, I have a wife now or something, you know? But it's like... You can know all of their names, know who we're talking to, be told a little bit about them and all that stuff. But I don't think you need to be like, oh, I absolutely need to know who this person is, get introduced and all this kind of stuff, you know? I feel like that's not completely necessary, personally. Mainly because the fact that secrets first shouldn't be kept. So knowing each other and knowing the friends and your friends know about you guys, that means no secrets are actually kept in that sense, right? Nothing that's, like, actually dangerous of secrets. Now, it is okay to have your own things where it's not full plate, here's a piece of paper, here's all of my chat logs and everything.
You can read every single conversation.
Because then that feels more territorial, that feels more controlling, that feels more manipulative kind of stuff, like a kind of style of relationship. And I feel like that gets unhealthy. So I feel like there is a good amount of, like, hey, I can talk to you about specific things, I can talk to you about who this person is and all this stuff, but you don't need to know every single aspect about this kind of relationship, you know? So it's more of be aware, but not well informed. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. So just there's no secrets of, like, who the friend is and, like, just how you met or whatever, but, like, everybody knows that the friend is there, everybody knows that the spouse is there, and you're good. So you take these steps to actively make sure that everything is in the open, but also take steps to make sure that you are trusting each other instead of controlling each other.
Exactly. Like, you need to already have that boundary. You need to have that boundary. As soon as the boundary is set in place and in stone, the rest of it really doesn't matter. Now, if the boundary is flexible and moving around, then, work on it, get it to the place where it's stuck there. Then after that, they should know where they stand. You should know where you stand. Everything like that after the fact is fine. You're good. And then your spouse is just going to have to trust you unless you give them a reason not to trust you. So that's my thought on that anyway. What about yours?
No, it's basically like that. I think your spouse should know who your friends are. Like, I think they should have a chance to meet or get acquainted with somehow, however it is, whether you just talk to them, just tell them, like, oh yeah, I met this person at this time, and things like that. Like, you let them know that you made a new friend. Because also, I mean, I think your spouse should be happy when you make friends. Like, I think that should be a good thing. And then also just being like, well, the spouse doesn't like they should trust you in what you're talking to with the friend, like what you're talking about with the friend and what you guys are going out and doing or whatever. Like, I think there does have to be that level of trust, because it could easily turn into being a controlling and manipulating relationship if the spouse is always like, okay, what did you do? What did you talk about? Well, what did you talk about when and then? And like, here, I'm planting this camera on you. Like, it can go to extremes.
It gets a little too much.
And like, but I think it's just okay to communicate about it. Just say like, yeah, I made this friend today, or like, yeah, this person at work, my coworker, is like, we had lunch together today, and things like that. Like, I think that's fine. I think it's okay to have that balance of like, I'm not going to tell you every single detail because it's not important. It's not what you actually need to know, because it has no consequence to anything.
Now, if there is something that ends up with a consequence or something, then you need to inform. You need to inform pretty quickly.
Yeah, you should have that open communication if things are happening. Like, if a friend does try to make a move on you, and you were like, "Whoa, I did not mean to give any of that."
Don't be an Alec. Don't have your flirtation things end up getting you in trouble. Don't flirt with everybody
subconsciously. But then also let your spouse know that, like, hey, this happened. I don't know where the communication went wrong, but I didn't mean to, kind of a thing, you know? Like, because it's just important. It's important to know that, like, both of you are on the same side, and that, like, you are thinking of each other in those moments, you know?
Yeah.
But then it's also okay to be like, yeah, they have their friends and they're going to go hang out today, and that's awesome. Or we're going to go hang out with our friends, and that's awesome.
Yeah.
You know?
So friendships are great. Honestly, you need friendships. In a relationship. Really, you need any kind of friends. It can be your coworkers for a start if you need it.
Coworkers, siblings,
get
random friends. Please, like,
because as much as you love your spouse in all the ways that you can, you always need somebody else. You're
probably going to have moments where it's not your spouse you want to talk to.
And then you'll feel alone if it's just your spouse. And then it gets a little bit more troubling. But anyways, I think that's all the time that we have for this specific subject. Thank you guys for watching. Please comment down what your answers are down in the comments. And we're going to read through those as well. Yes, we read through everything.
Yes, we do.
Yes, we do.
We do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All the time. Maybe not all the time, but most of
the time. But a lot of the time. Like, most of the time.
Anytime there's comments, you read it.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyways, so yeah, take a look at that. And we have the Twitch up. We have another channel. We have merch. We have this. We have
all the stuff.
Anyways, yep. Thank you guys so much for watching. And you guys may have a fantastic day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.